vintage dress remake. I'm going to give this little vintage dress a fashion makeover. A real fashion evolution coming up. Hi, Chanel here with another edition for your So Chanel fashion playlist, bringing you tips, tools, and techniques to help you with your fashion evolutions. So if you're new here, consider joining for weekly doses of fashion inspiration. I found this dress in my garage. I had been given some fabric last summer from one of my students. Her mom went into an assisted living home and she donated some fabrics and there were some little dresses in there from like the 70s and the 80s that she had held on to for a long time, and she gave them to me for the fabrics, and I just thought this was so cute, so I think I put it in my garage. I have a little costume rack in there, and forgot I had done that. That was last summer, and I just thought this would be really fun to remake. Although I don't really like to cut up vintage clothes, but this one was handmade, and you can tell it was all hand stitched in here, and it's actually made very well. And it's got a zipper in it, a metal zipper, and then the hem is all hand done, and the seams are pinked and everything. It's really quite a cute little dress, and it fits really well too. So I thought this would be fun to remake. And then I have this trim. I had bought this a few weeks ago. I made a swimsuit cover up, or I remade one up, and I couldn't decide between the trims, so I bought them both, and when I got back to the studio, saw which one I wanted to do, and this one wasn't it. But now this goes perfectly with this fabric. I can't even believe it. So it's like the two tones here. It was like made to go with this. So kind of the pressure's on. I want to make it right because I don't want to mess up that fabric. But so now what to do with it? Then I was watching Dancing with the Stars, and I always get ideas from their dance costumes. So I actually took a picture of it on my phone. I stand next to the TV and take a picture with it. So this young girl, she was I don't even know who it was. She has a little two-piece on here with a trim, like a little bustier, and then a skirt with a yoke on it, and it has a cute little trim to it. So then I thought, I'm going to do that with this, cut this, make it into a midriff. I'm going to make a little bit longer one, not so much that because it's not really a dancing dress, but make a longer midriff, make this v-neck, tie this in here somehow, have it tie right here, and then cut the skirt off and make it into a yoked skirt with a asymmetrical cut in it, and then put the trim on that too. And then I happen to have a pattern. I always look through all my patterns, not only for ideas, but also for I don't have to make a pattern. It can cut right to, using somebody else's pattern. But I use this one here. It's got a yoke and then the asymmetrical line in here, and I'm just going to make it shorter. And then I can kind of just see, once I cut this skirt off, how it's going to fit in there and see if it's even doable. So I'm hoping it is. But that's my ideas. So I'm going to get to it. I believe there's more time in planning and thinking about what you're going to do than there is actually sewing. I just spent the past hour thinking about what I was going to do, how I was going to do this, and I can't say exactly because it all evolves when you're going, but took a little bit of time. First I was going to V-cut this, just cut it apart, but then I thought, I like this little flower here, and why cause myself the extra work when this is already sewn in there in place? And I'll get the V from using this trim and just kind of tying it around. Looks pretty cute like that. And just putting the trim around the back. That's pretty simple. And I believe I'll just make this into a midriff. I don't exactly know how short to go with it. I'm just going to cut it off here and roll it up and see how it looks when the skirt gets done. Then I was looking in my scrap box for a contrast fabric, because I'm not sure I'm going to have enough fabric for the yoke, and I came across this blue, the denim. I was actually looking for blue, like so. That's usually a common color. And this denim was in my scrap box. I thought, that looks pretty cute. That'll make it look a little sportier, like Sweet and sporty. Something like that. Sounds like a Spice Girl. Then I'm probably going to have to go buy some more of this trim, like another yard. So I just want to, first I want to just see how it drapes in there. But then I've been cutting the pattern apart, and this was my pattern that I used, the yoke piece here, and the skirt, and it's pattern's probably from the 80s, 90s, I'm not sure, pretty old. It's a pretty good stylish pattern, but it's an asymmetrical, and I've been like shortening it and shaping it, just laying it on the dress form and seeing how it goes here. So just pinning it on, seeing how it's going to drape. And because I really wanted to see, I laid the skirt out, really wanted to see if it was going to fit on that fabric. It's a pretty good chunk of fabric, but you just never know. So there's seams in here. It's pretty easy to find the grain line. I'll try to line it up on the grain line as much as I can. The pattern itself is cut for a bias grain, so could be interesting. So I think I'm going to get started and cut the skirt out, cut the skirt off, and then separate these two and see where we go from there. All right, now I got to cut this off. The good thing is I just cut it off, and I don't like it, I can put it back. Also, I need to get the zipper out of here because it's metal, and I just clipped a couple threads here, and then I just can pull the rest of it up because I don't really want to cut metal teeth with my scissors. Also, how am I going to add this back? I'm going to have to get a smaller separating zipper here, or do some hooks and eyes in here, but the zipper is going to have to come all the way out, because how are you going to put it on? Always got to think about that stuff. Okay, now I'm going to just cut. I'm just going to cut it right at the seam, and that way I can see, just when I decide what to do with the bodice, as far as how short it goes. Can just roll it up. The bodice should be pretty easy. I don't have to play around with the neckline anymore. So just hand sew that trim on. I sure hope the fabric store has some more, because I think I want it to go around the skirt. Still not sure. All right, it's free. And now this is our skirt fabric. So there is a lot of fabric, although there's never enough. All right, so I have the two front pieces laid out on this skirt piece. There's a seam running down the center of this, and so far I've avoided most of it. But I really want to cut this as the pattern is on the bias. It fits better if I just cut it on the length grain, but the bias is going to have a little bit more drape, so I'm going to go with the pattern. My grain line is here, and I messed this all up when I chopped it up, but there's the center front is here, so that'll be a nice bias cut here. And I can find the grain line on here easily because it's a woven, and I can actually see how it's woven, and the seam is going up here, and whoever made it did it really well, and it's right on the grain. So all I did was measure from here, in my L square here, and measured this so that it's parallel to that seam. And then this other piece here, this is the left front, I'm going to cut that on the bias using the cross grain. So I have no idea how this is going to drape. It'll be interesting. But that is going to take care of that. So I'll pin this and cut this part out here, and then tackle the back. All right, I'm going to cut this out. Hope for the best. Here goes. I made it a couple inches longer than I think we wanted, but That's going to have to be straightened out. I think I was going to do something different with that. So take this up here. So I got the front cut out. Now I have the back, and the front's on the bias, but I don't think the back, I think the back should be on the bias too, but it doesn't quite fit. It really goes off this pattern a lot. To see even the cross grain, it's really not fitting well. And I might be able to get it right there. Then there's a seam going right here, so I'd like to not have as much of the seam. It's still, there's a hem right here I can open up, but I'll still be pretty big chunk out of there. So I think what I'm going to do first, since I don't have to do this right now, is I already cut the front, but sew that together with the yoke and see how it's draping and decide what I want to do, because I might do the front and the back the same, so it overlap and overlap also in the back. Why not? Because I know those pieces fit here. So I'm going to sew that front part of the skirt together and see how it looks. Wow, I'm glad I didn't cut the back out yet. I'm really loving the front of this. And I just pinned the two pieces to this front yoke here. And love the bias cut on here, the two pieces that make up one front. So I'm going to go ahead and do the back as the same. And I'm glad I didn't cut out that one single back piece that I couldn't get it to fit on the grain anyway. And because this is what fashion evolution is all about. Kind of taking it in segments and seeing how things drape. And when you only have so much fabric to work with, you kind of don't want to just cut into it. You want to think about it a little bit. Although it's good to be brave and cut into it. So I'm going to do the same to the back as I did the front and see how it looks. Well, I got the zipper in and it looks really great. I used a navy zipper, so mainly because the tab will blend in with this, because this is going to be very exposed. There's just a skirt yoke here, and also it hides here, and it doesn't, invisible zippers, if you get them in there close enough, they don't show. So definitely do the navy part. This skirt's hanging really great because I have both these sides with the cross grain cut the same way. Kind of confusing, but that whole bias length grain stuff, I can see the bias grain here. So they're coming, the print is coming in there together. And then this part was on the length grain going one way, and then on the bias grain. Probably confusing you. I don't know if you know a little bit about grain lines, but the study of grain lines and how fabric drapes is really important of how clothes come out. And we teach that a lot at the school, and it takes a while to learn it. So I would advise, if you don't know a lot about it, to really study up on grain lines, and I'll be doing some tutorials on that also. But this looks great. I think what I'm going to do here is use my trim on this drape part, just on this part here and then here, and let it drape into the hem. I'm going to do that on the front and the back. I think that'll be cute. I love this trim. It's basically, I'm going to treat it like a piping. It's just got this netting piece here. I'll tuck this into the seam, or like right under the hem, and just have it peek out. This trim is basically just these little clover patterns and sewn together like that. That had to be hard to sew together. I think I would be dizzy if I made all those. But that's going to look really cute. Now I have to get onto the top, and I've decided with the top, I've been thinking, is I'd like to bring the denim into the midriff top here too. So how I would do that is I'm going to make this shorter than I planned, because then I'm going to bring in probably about an inch and a half piece of denim right here, and just kind of drape it around. I think that will be a really good touch to unite these two pieces. Now I'm going to cut this bodice off, make sure there's nothing under there, like a strap, and go accidentally cut the strap. That would be a lot of times, just check your work underneath. And this off. Make sure nothing's under there. Okay. Now I got a little top. And this part is going to then become my guideline for my denim. I have my midriff piece cut off and placed on the denim. I folded my denim here, so I have it on a fold line, and traced the piece on there, added the seam allowance, like a 1/2 inch on top, made sure I had a seam allowance on the side. Then I found the front of, this is the front piece here, and found the center, put it on the fold, like so, and then trace that, put a 1/2 inch seam allowance here, and then seam allowance for the side, and then all I got to do is cut that out, interface it, and sew it at the right side seam, because the left side's going to be hooks and eyes, and then place it on the bodice. Well, I have the midriff piece on. It looks really great with this contrast. This is a whole different dress. I really like it. I have to decide on how much to take up on here. I think I'm going to keep it on the wider side so that it balances out with this yoke, because the yoke is probably about 3 inches. If you go too skimpy on here, it kind of throws it off a little bit. And I'm just going to show a belly button here about, probably, not mine, but somebody else's. So this we'll get this fitted here. And this is how the back will look. Look at that. Looks really good. Now when this trim comes in here, this will be draped around here and then cross over. It's just going to do a little tie right there. And that's how it's going to look. So now I just need to make a facing pattern and put a lining in here. I'll just use like a navy lining. Finish those, both of these contrast pieces up, and then start in on the hemming and the trims. I also have to add hooks and eyes here. About 1, 2, 3, about 4 hooks and eyes. Wish I could do a zipper. But I think hooks and eyes might be the best thing to do. Well, cut to a few hours later, I have finished the little vintage dress. Added the trim to the neckline, got the cute little flower exposed in there, put some hooks and eyes on, finished the band, put the facing on, I have the back draped here. Looks pretty cute. The skirt was turned out really cute. Let's see if I can bring this up high enough. I continued the drape up on the yoke. I thought it's kind of a good way to blend it in, and drapes really pretty on this front skirt peak, and it's on the side. The back is trimmed in there. It's looking pretty cute and ready to wear. So I'd love to hear what vintage dresses you've taken apart. And I know it's a little risky on the vintage ones, but sometimes if you have a great idea, it really is worth it. And also, what ideas would you have of using this trim or of cutting up that vintage dress that is now history and is something new now? So until next time, I will see you in the next video.